What's happening, guys? Vega here from Serpent X Special Forces, and today I wanted to share my results about the RTX 590. Now this one's from XFX, which a lot of reviewers already have done reviews on. It's called the Fatboy, which is a poor marketing choice in my opinion, but that's near the point. I wanted to just share my results. Now this card, or the RX 590 launch, I think November 15th, November 15th. And it comes pre-clocked about almost 300 megahertz above what the RX 580s would come pre-clocked. It comes with a 1580 clock on the core. It says the OC max or OC plus is 1600, and the memory clocks are pretty much the same as the RX 580. It comes with the same 8GB 256-bit GDDR5 that we're used to. It does say that it has dual BIOS on there, which is going to be useful for me at a later date and time, and is pretty much available in most retailers that we're all familiar with and stuff like that. It does come with a little bit thicker of a heatsink than we're used to. Instead of the normal 2-slot design, is like 2.5 somewhere in there. Not as big as the RTX 2080 and 2080 Ti, but it's getting pretty big up there. Well, the cooling design could be a little bit better. The cooler, the actual way it was designed, in my opinion, could have been a lot better, but it keeps relatively cool. Nothing to worry too much about. Same Radeon stuff that we're used to, drivers, relive, software, all that good stuff. And it sufficiently handles the VRM temperatures and the core temperatures, no problem. But it is power hungry, and I'll talk to you in a little bit about that. So looking at the Tech Power Out website, the RX 590 is around 279, 280. Comes with the same shader units, ROPs, but the core clock is a little bit higher. So before, the RX 580 would come with around 1200, 1300 clock, depending on the vendor and if there was a pre-overclock. Memory is pretty much the same, like I said, but it is on the 12 nanometer process instead of the 14 nanometers, so there was some improvement. Now, if you're interested in the actual card and the build quality, Gamers Nexus, of course, has a teardown video on it. And when I was talking about the cooler and the design and how it could have been a lot better, down here in the bottom left-hand corner, that's just an aluminum plate that kind of screws on to where the cold plate is, or near it, and then it's supposed to cool the memory modules. It could have been a lot better. I don't know why they didn't make it one full unit like Steve said. I completely agree. But if you're interested in the components that were used, he does name a few of them, the way it's laid out and how it teared apart, all that good stuff. Definitely check out their channel and this video if you are interested. Now, going over my metrics here, I ran some testing, time spy. Now, mind you, I don't have the same hardware calibrating system or hardware capabilities as some of the other reviewers, so I'm just sharing numbers with you, but I don't have a way to test it to a degree of accuracy that they do. So like I said, 1630 was the max that I could get. That's basically 50 megahertz over the base clock of 1580, but it wasn't really stable. 1620 was probably the best thing. The memory clock during gaming or benchmark graphic benchmarks, didn't like it too much. Even 2050 didn't like it too much. However, it's adequate for what it has and what it does. The highest temps I saw was 78, but average in game was around 68C. So it's not a problem at all. And I did this with a case that has two 120s in the front, two 120s up top, so the airflow, and then of course the 120 in the back. And with screened-in filters or screen filters, it's just like everybody else's case. Should be able to do fine. And if you know my case is old. It's not the best airflow case, but it does just fine for what it has, and the card stays within regulation. VRMs do get up there around 84C, but it can sustain it no problem. But this card is power hungry. It's almost getting up there with the 2080 as far as power draw. At peak we had 261 watts, but it averaged anywhere between 170 to 190 depending on the game, the title, or the benchmark. And here's the VRM temperatures, as I said. So 84 was a peak, 75 was a peak, averaged anywhere between 60 to 70 depending on the game, title, and what you're doing basically. basically a 580, but because the process node and a few, the process node was shrunk, but a few optimizations were made as well. Obviously, the core clock's a lot higher. It's I guess you could say a binned 580, and it does bring some improvement. So my time spy score on my, of course, I'm still running the 7700K from Intel, ASRock Z270 Tachi motherboard, G-Skill Trident Z RGB memory, 3200 megahertz, and then of course the RX 590. And here's my scores. So if you look at the graphics score, it's 4755. Total score 4904. CPU we're not going to worry about because it's not a concern. On the Firestrike Extreme, 7086 on the graphics score. Total 6621. Regular Firestrike, I got 16,569 with a total score of 13,515. Skydiver we don't care too much about. And then again, just a screenshot of after some gaming and stuff like that. If you could even see it, 65 was about the maximum that I got during the gaming and all that good stuff. So nothing to worry too much about. VRM stayed anywhere between 68, 64, so completely fine with that. Moving forward, the card is incrementally better than the RX 580. So should you buy it? Probably not, but this is why I released this video along with the other reviewers, so you guys get an informed, you have the information you need to make an informed decision or buy on whether or not you should get it. Now if you have a 480, 580 already, no. But if you're going to build a system and you want to build a new system for your child, friend, or for yourself, then this card may be good to consider because it's basically performs better than a 1060 6 gig in most titles. Not all titles, they trade blows again, like we've seen in the past, but it does perform better than a 1060 6 gig in most titles, but under a 1070 from NVIDIA's perspective, and then it performs slightly better than the RX 580. So weigh out the pros and cons. Of course, the pricing could have been a little bit better. There is a price to performance chart out there if you check out some of the other reviewers. And Hardware Unboxed does have a channel. Steve does have a video, I believe, where they just tested a whole bunch of games with the RX 590. So you're going to get more details than you would with me. Now, I'm going to show you some of my benchmarks in games that I tested. I don't have every single title out there, unfortunately. I do apologize for that. But here are some of the games that I tested and the results that I got for them. So hang tight for that.
Feeding on that servitor.
That is very bad news. Please stop them.
Alright guys, well, that's what I have for you today as far as information. I will be doing some testing of my own. I actually have a BIOS lined up to figure out the mining performance. I got a couple BIOS lined up to kind of mod this card with an RX 580 BIOS to see if it can help it perform better as far as mining performance and from a crypto standpoint and algorithm and hashing. So if you're interested in that information, please stay tuned to the channel. Bear with me though, because it is becoming the holiday. Thanksgiving's next week, and I will be doing a lot of stuff with the family. As soon as I have this information, data collected, and I can create the content and the video for you guys, I will release it. So just bear with me and please be patient. But those are my results in the games that I tested. Obviously, you saw the benchmarks earlier. But that's pretty much it. You know, is the RX 590 worth buying right now? Honestly, in my opinion, no. Especially if you have the RX 580 already or 570. It's maybe something to consider if you're building a new system. Then I would agree and go with it, which is exactly what I'm doing with this card. This card specifically is going to a young man who's going to be doing schooling but likes to play games on the side. So it can handle most of the games that he's interested in just fine. Of course, 4K is a challenge for this card. Maybe 1440p or 1080p would be better suited, but in certain titles, 1440p seems to be a challenge as well. So take all the information that you see from these reviews into consideration before you buy this card. But I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any feedback, let me know what your thoughts are of the RX 590. That should AMD have not released it? Is it a complete waste? Does it even belong in the market? You know, with all the cards coming out these days, and you know, certain cards that some of us are confused about, like, you know, the 1065 gig for the Asian market, and all these other cards that really don't belong, like a different version of a 1060 or the 2070 having two versions of the you know, 2070 card. The graphics market is changed a lot. The game has changed a lot. So the best way to make a decision on which graphics card you should get is to obviously take all the facts in and then make a decision from there on whether or not you should pull the trigger or move forward with the buy. But I hope this helped you in some form or fashion. If it did not, I do apologize. Other than that, like, share, subscribe, and comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.